Angela Bassett, it's a busy week for you.
Jess Cagle.
It is a really busy
You've
week.
spoken the truth.
You've got, all right, so Black Panther, the premiere in the Yellow Fringe, that broke the internet.
What?
Number one, yeah.
Oh my, it was a moment.
It was a moment. Naeem Khan, that was
That's
an
right.
incredible outfit.
It really was, and as soon as I put it on, I just looked in the mirror, and it was just like, this is bigger than life. This is the sun. This is Black Panther. This is absolutely appropriate.
It was appropriate. Not
Nothing
many
less.
places you could wear that.
Nothing
right?
less.
And also, while opening this gigantic movie, you've also got 911 that you're in the middle of.
Yes,
And it's a big hit too.
it is. I don't know what's going on, but I'm all right with it.
So,
I'm riding the tide. Yeah.
so what are you shooting and doing press for the all of that stuff at
I
the same time?
I am, yes. We're about 7 episodes in. We're working on episode 7 of the 10 that we're doing as a mid-season replacement. Night shoot tonight, working probably till 3 or 4 in the morning,
Oh,
as soon as
wow.
I leave here for 911, you know. I guess I got to find a few hours sometime. I'm going to be sleeping at lunch.
I was going to say, I don't know
I hope that
when you're
cat
going to
nap.
sleep. Yeah.
You know, works.
By Friday, Angela Bassett.
By Friday, I'm on the
Cranky.
plane to, on the plane to UK to finish up Mission Impossible. So it is,
Wow,
it's a
it's a
crazy week.
Let's start with Black Panther. It's a huge deal for the world. I mean, all of these superhero movies come with a certain degree of expectations because people have such an emotional connection to them. But with Black Panther, that emotional connection, particularly to African American audiences, is really profound.
Let's go!
It really is. It's something that we've been, you know, so many of know and believe and have never seen it before. You know, we believe this. We tell our kids, you're of kings and queens, you know. We try to instill a sense of pride. And this is that moment where we can look on the screen and see all of that history, you know, that we've read, that if we've been privileged to go back to the motherland, to experience, to see it manifested on screen, you know, for the first time. And this has been a while coming. This, you know, Black Panther, written by, you know, Kirby and Stan Lee, created in 1966. Him being like one of the strongest of all the heroes, you know, most accomplished, most vulnerable. Women being such an intricate part of, you know, of this story, of this comic.
So ahead of its time.
Ahead of its time.
Because the greatest warriors in Wakanda are women.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, the Dora Milaje, you know, Nakia, the greatest intellects of Wakanda, being Shuri, you know, Ramonda's daughter, who's 16, you know, the brilliance, you know. So yes, it's very important. There's just jubilation in the streets about this.
There is. Ramonda is a queen. She's very worried for her son, T'Challa, in this. She's lost her husband.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about her psychological makeup that Angela Bassett brought to it that maybe wasn't in the comic books or in the script.
Well, I think she is a young bride to her husband, and she has lost him, but she's also an elder, one of the elders, one of the wise counsel for the king, T'Chaka, and now T'Challa. So she, you know, straddles this fence of being that elder, wanting to see him come into his manhood, into his, you know, come into being king, but also that protector. It's only a mother would, that fierce lion, you know. She could have been one of the warrior, one of Dora Milaje as well. You know, that's the sense that you get from all the women. They have just a regalness and a fierceness and a fighting spirit, you know.
Nate Moore described this as James Bond crossed with the Godfather. So we talk a lot about the you know, the importance and the significance of the movie, but it's also just a big popcorn movie that is really fun, and
really
that's
big,
hard
really
to pull
satisfying. Off. It is. I don't know. You know, our Ryan Coogler. You know.
Yeah.
if you love action, it satisfies you. There, my husband, he's like leaning over to me, hitting me like, this is the kind of movie I go out late to see that I need a fix for, you know, big action movie. But also, balancing it also is this great, I mean, we go straight to the heart. There's a lot of feeling and pathos and emotion, you know, that's you know, that stands hand in hand with the, you know, with the big popcorn nature of it.
More than most superhero movies. You know, all of those have the Joseph Campbell hero, all of that kind of stuff. This movie really takes on the African American experience in America all the way back. All of the baggage and the pride and the wounds that come with history. And this movie somehow gets at all of that. I found it pretty incredible.
All the wounds and all the disconnection.
Yeah.
You know, the connection to our past, who our potential, who we might have been, you know, of our aspirations, of what we want to do, of saving others, of bringing those, you know, less along with you. The sacrifices that are made and what it does to our psyche and to our bodies and to our relationships. It has all of that, and I think that's why we get so much emotion. It you know, it's big, it's action, it's futuristic, but it's also so grounded in what we go through. You know, showing up and having to be more and better and give all. You know, and defy expectation and stereotype and still being loving and brilliant and having something to give and to share.
What was your relationship on the set like with Chadwick Boseman and Letitia Wright, who play your kids?
I know, right? They're so wonderful. You know, that was my, of course, first time becoming familiar and working with Letitia, and such a sweetheart. She's just so full of just energy and vitality and laughter and jokes and wonder. You know, it's love and just so full of love. So I really embraced her like one of my little girls, you know. And Chadwick too, just marvelous, so prepared and so thoughtful and you know, and just going the extra mile. You know, we come into the makeup trailer early in the morning, and he, you know, they're laying back, they apply whatever, you know, maybe it's the leopard tattoo, you know, neck piece that he has to wear, and of course that takes the time that it takes, but he may be on his phone, you know, speaking to one of his brothers in Africa, working on that dialect, trying to get, you know, the specificity and make it as authentic as possible. So I really, you know, applaud and appreciated that work ethic. Both of them possessed it, and you know, it was. I just sat in awe of them, just speechless and just so proud, absolutely proud.
You also play a mom to a teenage daughter in 911 who's really going through something. So Athena Grant in 911 is an LAPD officer.
Athena Grant is the LAPD officer, and just recently her husband has revealed to their children, who are about 9 and 13 that he is gay. And she has doubts that this is something that they're ready to handle. It's like, let us get our thing together first before, you know, and be united before we put this heavy subject matter on them.
Are you getting a divorce?
Of course not, sweetheart.
You're lying.
Hey, watch your mouth.
Babe, married people have problems all the time. The baby boy handles it well. The daughter she's having, you know, she has a bit more of a time with it. And she's also dealing with, you know, mean girls at school. So I'm really sensitive about that because I have a young daughter myself. And even from the age of 4, from preschool, they've had to deal with, and as crazy as it seems or sounds, color issues, or because they were African Americans, and whether other kids will play with them or have issue with that, you know. And it can't come from their young minds. It's something that they've heard somewhere, you know, but they are
That must
so
be very
resilient.
eye-opening as a
It
parent.
is, and it's like, you know, it just makes you gasp, and it just squeezes your heart, you know, sometimes, that because you never want your kids to go through these sort of pain and issues. So you thought it'd be much later, you know, once they get their firm footing of who they are. You know, but Athena's daughter's trying to discover who she is in that moment, and she's not strong enough to deal with it, so she, you know, ingests, a lot of pills in order to take her life. You know, unfortunately, she's found by her mother, and her mother, you know, a cop, she's going to deal with it in a cop way, you know, a cop entry, you know.
In episode 4,
Yeah.
Athena goes to the mean girl's house and arrests her.
Trumped up charges, she finds something, and she makes it a deal when there is no deal, and she gets pulled on the carpet for it.
Yeah, I
But
have
it's
to
what a
say,
mother would do.
okay,
you know?
it was pretty-
It's what a mother would do. It's what I feel like doing sometimes. Who's that? Who said what to you? You know?
It was pretty satisfying to watch.
Oh, good.
You and Ryan Murphy turned out to be this really interesting actor-writer combination, because the first couple of seasons of American Horror Story, I would have never thought about, oh, Angela Bassett really needs to be part of this.
Wow.
But you wanted to be.
I did. I got a call that, you know, that they wanted me to come in, you know, to meet with Ryan for American Horror Story. Of course, then I just, you know, I said, well, let me get my little preparation. But so I had to binge and get up to speed, and I was completely in. I think I was watching it with a friend of mine. I was like, would you hurry up and get your snacks and sit down, because we got to watch this while it's still day, because I can't watch this come nighttime, come nightfall. And just fell in love with it. So when I went in, I was absolute fan. And I began to talk about it, and the new season was going to be about New Orleans and witches, and we were going to look into this voodoo queen, and I perked up and I blurted out Marie Laveau. And I think he went, because not a lot, I guess not, I mean, if you're from New Orleans, you are aware of Marie Laveau. Her legend her mystique looms very large, you know, in the Crescent City. But maybe outside of that, there may not be that there's not that as much a familiarity with her. So when he came calling about that, he didn't have to say much. Voodoo priestess queen, woo, I'm there. And I had so much fun with her.
Voodoo doll belong in the house of voodoo. And I know you didn't cross the line and break the truce for no bowl of gumbo.
And
So much fun.
There have been in Coven, you're Marie Laveau. You decapitated Kathy Bates. It's one of the things.
And I have a minotaur. And I keep a minotaur, right? For love.
In Freak Show, you had 3 breasts.
Yeah.
And got out to all kinds of things. Then in Hotel, you were a vampire.
I became a vampire, yeah.
You drank Cheyenne Jackson's blood among a lot of people.
A running leap, and grabbed him with all 4 feet.
What was the most shocking thing that you had to do on screen in an American Horror Story?
I think it was the Freak Show. You know, reading that, I remember sitting down and reading that. You know, I was under contract. I was going to do 3 years. So, all right, I'm already signed up. So it's not like I can, but I haven't read it until maybe about 2 or 3 weeks before we're going to, you know, commence filming. So, okay, all right, I'm signed up, Faith. Okay, what are we going to do? I'm reading it, and I get to the part where it says, I have 3 breasts and a dingaling. I was like,
What?
And a what? Ring my bell. Close the script. I had to just sat it down for a minute and go have like the best laugh. I was like, have I ever done anything like this? Anything close to something like this or read this before? Never. I love this thing.
You directed one of the episodes of Roanoke, and also in Cults.
And yes, with him starting the half program.
Yeah.
So admirable,
Meaning
necessary. Half of the directors will be women this year, more than half.
That's great.
Yeah, 75. But yeah. So I was a part of that, of the initial project.
And
initial that.
did you like directing?
I did. I love it. I love it because I adore actors, and I I guess I understand the process. So I appreciate them and what they bring to the table, and I always want to show them in their strongest, best light, most dramatic, And I know we are, sometimes we can be a little insecure. We're always wondering, did you get what you want? Does that satisfy? Is that it? Did I do it? Did I deliver it? So I like to provide that comfort and that space, When they feel most comfortable, they sacrifice and give the most of themselves. So I love that. But I love those in front of the screen and those behind. The trust exercise when you lay your arms out and you fall backwards. That's what I do with the DP and with the crew. I mean, literally, I have done that. Like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. Turn around, like, I trust you. And they're like, oh, what? Because I know you're going to catch me.
Did they think Angela Bassett was drunk?
No.
She's falling
Maybe,
down.
but they know when we're moving on because I am loud and exuberant and I am...
You consider St. Petersburg your hometown?
I do. I still, even though I've been in LA, since 1988 now? I have no idea how many years that is, but since 1988, October 10th, I don't know, that's one date I do remember when I came to make the decision to move to LA.
That's 30 years.
Oh, what? No.
From 88? Yeah, 30 years.
Okay, my voice went up. Really? Okay. All right.
Before you landed in St. Petersburg, there were years, probably in hindsight, that were difficult when you were a little girl. You were moved around from New York to Winston-Salem. What were those years like for you?
Yeah, I was born in New York, and then my parents, they separated very early on. Well, my mother got pregnant with my sister, so very early on. A lot of times if it's hard for you, the extended family, comes into place, steps in for you. So my father's sister, my Aunt Golden, who was an educator, her and her husband, my Uncle Grover, who was a barber, in the community, they took me as a 10-month-old baby and raised me. Now, the saying later goes that my aunt told me is that she was supposed to raise me, but she didn't, not to adopt me, but she was to raise me because they never had children themselves. They weren't able to. So I moved there. My mother was having my younger sister. She was my father. They were, volatile, relationship at the time. And so she was leaving. She was like, we're leaving your daddy. He was like, get back in the house. But finally she did. I remember getting a call when I was young because I would always try to call my auntie mom. When you're a baby, you look for father, mother, and I would go, mommy, and she was always clear with me. I'm not your mom. You have a mommy. I'm not your mommy. She was very clear. She didn't try to, take that road. And I would get mad because I wanted a mommy, So I remember getting a call one day and it was like, hi, Angela, this your mommy. I'm coming to get you. And I remember hanging up going, I don't have a mommy. And hanging up, next thing I know, and she's at the door and I'm, picked up and swiftly off to St. Petersburg, Florida, where, she was back in her mother's house with the two of us, and we were just trying to make some sort of a way. She was trying to make a way out of a no way.
And she was getting her education at that same time.
She was going back to, a night school, trying to learn, shorthand at the time, and dictation, that sort of thing, so she could feed herself and us. It was a tough time, but my mother had a lot of pride in how you show up and how you carry yourselves, and and set high standards, sometimes too highly. I've heard people say, you must have had a critical mother because you're very tough on yourself.
When did you decide you wanted to be an actor?
At 15, I discovered in 15, as a young teenager, I was, I had my diaries and I would write short stories, and they would just be, it might be about, I don't know, It might be about rats and mice. And
Rats
yeah, I
and
remember
mice.
writing one that was really powerful about, living in the projects in the ghetto, with the baby and his milk being taken by, just on and on
Dark.
like that. Dark, yeah, a little dark.
Dark.
A little dark. Can't be that way in life, but a little dark, Just a young creative, you're looking for ways to express yourself, whether it's writing in your diary about how you feel or what you're going through, or writing poetry or writing short stories, or I started doing like little plays in this Upward Bound program that I was involved in, which was a program for underprivileged, inner city kids. They sent me to DC to the presidential classroom, so I got to see government and meet people, young people from outside of America, from different parts of the world, and really open up my eyes, because in St. Petersburg, I used to like to joke and say, yeah, there were black people, there were white people, and there were old people. That was St. Petersburg, Florida, But I discovered theater on that trip to DC. James Earl Jones was in A Mice and Men, and I was the last person in the theater, and I was glued to my seat, and I was just weeping. And then there was another part of me that was so surprised at how profound this theater experience was. It's not real, but it feels so real, and this reaction is so real. And if I could do that to people, I think I literally said, if I can make them feel as bad as I feel right now, I feel so bad, I'm crying. Oh, it feels so good and so alive, And so I went home looking for those opportunities, and there were not a lot of those opportunities in St. Pete then.
And not a lot of
that
encouragement.
time. No, well, my mother was a big encourager because, as a young teenager herself, she loved acting and performing poetry and stuff like that. So my mother was unbeknownst to me, she had those desires to be an actress. She loved singing, but she did not have that support. So, funny enough, she was supportive of my little plays and things that I would do. So we tried to start a little something at my high school. We didn't. Maybe we could get together a monologue evening, but we never put on full-scale production. So I remember there was a little theater, the St. Pete Little Theater, and the building is still there in St. Pete, and it really is little, And I remember going over there, and they were doing a production of The Great Sebastians. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
No, I hadn't either. So they were doing a production of that, and I went in to audition. There was like a little part of the maid, of the servant, and I think maybe she had about 4 lines. But I went in an audition, and they were so surprised and intrigued to see me that they double cast it, So it was me and, and a little white girl, she did it. So we would alternate performances.
The early years in New York, you were doing a lot of theater after you got out of Yale. What kind of jobs did you do before you were able to make a living as an actor?
Oh, I worked at Georgette Klinger Salon, which was, facials and pedicures and that sort of thing. And we were in a small little room, me and all of the, the ladies who took the appointments for, Miss Carolina and Miss Malina and Miss, Georgette and Miss this and Miss that. And in between that, on my 45-minute lunch break, I would have an audition. And imagine trying to go downtown. Downtown was one thing because you could catch maybe the 1 train or the A train or whatever it is and get, straight shot. But if you had to go downtown and cross town.
Oh, that's an ordeal.
And then you had to wait, and they weren't on time.
Yeah.
And then I get back and I would be, reprimanded. I feel, I'd go in the bathroom and I just like be mad and I cry and just like, ugh. Because, I'm here to do my job, my survival gig, but I knew that wasn't my heart, it was my means to an end, it wasn't my end, So I was there for a while, and then I remember I got this sort of word on, the vine that there was an opening at U.S. News and World Report magazine. So I remember going on lunch break, lunchroom, and calling up and trying to set up, an interview for that. I went over, it was one boss and me. So it was just the two of us. And I got it. So it was like, bye-bye, Georgette. Bye, ladies. Can I get my free facial before I leave? Okay. So I went over to U.S. News and World Report magazine in 50 Rockefeller Center, and it was just a breath of fresh air. I felt like I was so free, so I would, go to AP and UPI and suss out the, photos or whatever
Yeah, you were doing photo research.
we would need for the story, and then if it was, and then I'd have to get in attaché and get on the plane and go to DC to deliver it sometimes, I was like, wow, okay, this is exciting. But an audition would come up, and my boss, bless his heart, he would say, I have an audition. Go and go rehearse. Go get ready. I was like, what? He would give me all the time in the world to go and prepare for it. And I just felt, that he was such a blessing that I was there for, I think, 2 months. So I'm at Georgette for maybe a year, but once I get there, like the best situation
then
ever.
It's done.
And then I get a job because my mind is free. I'm not going in like, okay, thank you. But you're going in and you're really doing what it is you trained to do and what you purpose to do and what you intend to do and happy and most thrilled to be doing. And so it works out. It shows, it comes across,
You did Joe Turner's Come and Gone on Broadway. That was that must have been a big moment.
Yes,
and then,
that was a big moment, yeah.
And then that year you moved to LA, and you were doing Boys in the Hood.
I don't know if Boys in the Hood happened immediately, but what had happened is I was in Joe Turner's Come and Gone, and we had toured it around America. Lloyd Richards directed it. It was the dean of the Yale Drama School, which I was a student. I was one of his, his first class chosen by him, and it was marvelous to have this amazing, black man director of, Raisin in the Sun and so many things, but he had cast me in Joe Turner's Come and Gone. We went around to various regional theaters, be it the Arena Stage or Seattle Rev, the Old Globe, so I got to see, the country. And while at the Old Globe, I came to LA to audition for this book that was being turned into a movie. It was a slave period sort of drama, but my character was based on 2 incidents in history of a runaway slave, but she was pregnant and they caught her, but they put her on trial. I remember going to the costume room at the Old Globe and getting me one of those big, huge skirt. I don't know, I had an audition for it, in Hollywood before, big, huge skirt and, and just really getting into character. I think I went into the audition room and I was like seeing my haunches like I'm, running away or something, and just in character, from start to finish.
Intense.
And
You were an intense young woman.
Yeah, come in with it. End up getting it. So now we're on Broadway. I have to give my notice. I finally make it to Broadway. I give my notice, so about 4 months later, I'm coming out because now I'm leaving Broadway and I'm going to do the lead in my first motion picture. So it was all good, except when we got to the set.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was going to be a $10 million movie, and then it didn't. One weekend, the director came back and his hand was in a cast. He had to, I think, punch the wall or whatever, and the financing. So it didn't come to be. So we all went our separate ways. It was Donald Sutherland, it was Natasha Richardson, it was Tony Todd, it was Lawrence Fishburne. It was, and Cicely Tyson, my opportunity to meet her. It was like, she's here? I left the rehearsal hall, stood on the wall and waited for her and watched her, and she came down the hallway toward me. And because she had been everything, she had been who I watched and admired, and the type of work I aspired to do, So to meet her, it was like, pay homage, you bow down to the queen. and then we go back in the rehearsal hall, and then, you know, we don't bow down, and now we do what we're here to do. Yeah.
How surprised were you when you ran across the character of Reva in Boys in the Hood? Because when John Singleton was doing that, that was an important story to be told at that time. That story had not really been told in a Hollywood film at that point.
I don't think I read the entire script at the time. I remember living in LA, and I had been doing a lot of television, you know, 1 hour dramas or whatever, and maybe a little sitcom here. But it was like, now once I make the rounds, then what am I going to do? And I felt as if I was sort of put in a little bit of a, you know, she's a, you know, a television box, you know. But I came to LA to do, you know, film and television. I was doing theater in New York and stage. So, and they would come to New York, but then it was if the roles that a brown girl could play, brown-skinned girl could play, they were, you know, capable ones in LA. So it's as if they'd see us, then they go back. So that's what made me come to LA. I am here. And then I, you know, after 30 days, I started working. So when that came along, it was like this young director who didn't have any preconceived notion about me being, you know, a television actor. He was seeing actors. You know, he's young. He's what, 21 or something like that at the time, you know. He's open. He's like, who's your favorite poet? Oh, you love Langston Hughes. I love Langston Hughes. You know, you know.
I forget he was that young,
Yeah,
John
he was a
Singleton.
baby.
He became
like
the
17, 16
yeah.
at the time.
He became the youngest director nominee, and I believe the first African American director nominee.
Yes,
for that movie.
Yeah. So it was.
Thanks to you.
And a few other folks. But it was wonderful, and that's when Lawrence and I, because we had, you know, been casting this movie many years before, then it was like, here we are, finally, we come together, husband and wife, and this story of this black man raising his son and the mother understanding the dynamic and the importance of a father in a son's life.
Why are you trying to make this so easy?
Well, it's like you told me. I can't teach him how to be a man. It's your job.
You know, and the sacrifice that she makes in allowing her only child to be with his father, to be reared and raised that way, you know, with what he needs to become a man, to become the king she knows he is, the potential he has.
What kind of responsibility did you feel stepping into the role of Betty Shabazz in Malcolm X? It's a complicated person, it's a complicated story, and you want to do right by her.
Yes, the autobiography of Malcolm X is one of those books that we devoured that I became familiar with in college, you know, of Malcolm Little, and then his life and how this individual started out as one thing and how he, you know, he transformed himself and his gift for oratory and his intellect, you know, how it lifted us up. It lifted up his people, his community, you know, the Nation of Islam, but it's gone beyond those boundaries, and it's a book that we hold with great pride and significance in the African American community. And to have the opportunity to play this intelligent, strong black woman who reared and raised these kids, especially after this horrific death that she sees with her own eyes, with twins in her belly and her babies by her side. It's what we go through, you know, what our mothers have gone through and still survive and still go on and still raise children and still teach children as she did, under tremendous stress, strain, lack of resources, but she was so gracious and full of hope, you know, to maintain sanity, you know, is what I appreciate so much in her, you know. And it's how you see yourself, you know. It's like, okay, how am I viewing her? I think I met her at the screening, you know, at the premiere I never wore, you know, so regal. I never wore cotton, you know, lingerie,
Really?
you know, whatever, you know. But it was like, okay, history as you remember it, history as it was, it can be two different things.
Will you marry me?
Yes.
You heard what I said, right?
Did you hear my answer?
Yes, I think so.
Brother Malcolm? Are you eating?
Yeah, I've been eating.
Good.
So I was able to meet with her, with Atala, her eldest daughter. And I thought, you know, to have just that close step to the side, you know, step away, perspective of her mother and the woman that she was, you know, would helped me out a great deal in bringing Betty Shabazz to the screen. It was a magnificent time because it was a movie that the funding was a little dicey about, you know, the funding, and so many African Americans in sports, in music, media, opened their checkbooks and made sure that this movie, Malcolm X, was done. Because during that time, it felt like what this time feels like with Black Panther. That is a story that has to be told, that we're proud of, that we want to see, we've been waiting to see. There was so much love and respect, and yes, brother, yes, sister, you know, on that set. So, yeah.
It's,
Now, you made me
it's
think of that.
interesting. It's interesting that you're comparing now to them, because it was there seems to be something. There's something happening in the culture.
He was a real hero for us, you know, at that time. So yeah.
When you and I met around the time of Waiting to Exhale, I think that's
Was that in New York?
That was
the
in,
Giraffe
no, it was
Hotel?
in New York, and I went to your hotel room.
Yeah, the Giraffe Hotel. I remember that.
And
You
there-
made an impact.
is that right?
Yes, I remember. I do.
All I remember is Courtney B. Vance was in another room eating breakfast.
Was it? I don't remember that part. I don't remember.
I think it was Courtney. So you did Waiting to Exhale with Whitney Houston, obviously, and I remember at that time meeting her, and you know she was still at the height of her powers as an artist. But once I got in a little bit, you always realize what a very, very troubled soul she was. So you worked with her then, and then ended up directing the movie, Whitney, many, many years later after her death. When you think about Whitney now, what do you remember? You've spent a lot of time with her, in physically and in your head.
Yes, exactly. We, you know, working on that project with her, I remember it was my first time meeting her there on the set. And I remember we were sitting on the, you know, on the stoop of the house that was my house. And I just remember just looking at her, you know, a little lull in the day, in the conversation. And you just felt compelled to say, I mean, your gift, your instrument, for me, it really is as if God has just taken his hand and touched your vocal cords. You feel that, you sense that. It's so special. It's so, you know, it rejuvenates you. It's beyond. It is absolutely beyond belief, you know. And she felt that way about us, about actors, you know, about what we bring. So she was as much in awe of us as we were of her. And she was so down and so real and regular. I mean, you know, let's go bowling, let's play tonk, let's play bid whist, you know, playing cards. It was just as lofty and queenly and you know, and levitating off the ground as she was. She was also had the ability to be her feet firmly planted on the ground and just make you know that she loved you. She just sang. She just wanted to sing. None of the other stuff mattered. She just sang. She was a good girl. She was a good girl and she meant well. And she we shared the same makeup artist also, Roxana Floyd, was a brilliant makeup artist. You know, Roxana had only done maybe like magazines and stuff, and then when I got the movie, I wanted Bernadine to look flawless because she had money, you know?
Yeah,
she was
yeah.
a rich, you know? And so I reached out, and afterwards, you know, Whitney was up to what she was doing, you know. I might smoke a cigarette with you, but I'm not smoking and doing anything else, right? And so, so maybe her makeup artist at the time, some scene she have blue eyeshadow, and we come back the next day to finish that scene, and now it's green. It was like, no, continuity's a little off. So afterwards, she saw what Roxana was doing, but she called me and said, Angela, would it be okay? Would you mind if I use Roxana? I was like, wait a minute, superstar. Would I mind? No. To be a woman who would do that to me said a lot about who she was. Because I've had the other, and it's like, bye, 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 you know. But she was lovely.
I mentioned Courtney, your husband, a moment ago. You just had 20 years. 20 years of marriage.
Is it 20?
Apparently.
Is it 20?
Apparently. According to Wikipedia.
I don't keep count. I hope that means I stay in the moment, you know. But yeah, I know it's been a long time.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we met in drama school. I was a little ahead of him. You know, I was 2 years ahead of him. We weren't together then, you know. As a matter of fact, he had a beautiful, beautiful girlfriend at the time, you know, who was also in drama school with us also. So maybe about 14 years later, we, you know, our paths crossed here in Los Angeles. And I was single, he was single, you know, and I had such a, you know, appreciation for him over those years, you know, of his consistency, how he treated other people, of what a supporter he is, what a connector of people and ideas he is, how passionate he is. And it was like, So yeah, it's been, and he's an amazing father as well.
What's the secret to making it last?
Oh, child. Well, I think early on because well, for me, I know he's a phenomenal, you know, person, an actor, and that's what he's gifted to do. And for me, it's always to allow you to, you know, to follow your muse, you know, and he allows me. So he doesn't, you know, it's not like, I expect this, I expect that, you know, from you, dinner on the table every day or this, that, and the other. Or I have to go sometimes, I can't be there sometimes, and he steps in there. He's right there. And I think maybe it started from like wedding, you know, when they think like the wedding is the girl's thing.
Yeah.
Or, and also at the time I was also doing How Stella Got a Groove. So it was like, I'm trying to do this and I'm trying to be Stella. Okay, it's a lot going on here. And I was like, and I need you to step in and help me out with this. He was like, what? That's all you have to do is tell him to step in, you know. And he shows up for you. Not just for me, but for any of his friends or whoever he loves or whatever mentee may reach out to him. He steps up and steps in for you, you know?
He was nominated for an Emmy for OJ, and I saw the two of you at an Emmy party before the ceremony, a couple of nights before, and he was taking photos of you. It was really sweet.
And he's silly too.
But he was making it all about you. And there was something really profound in that moment, I thought, about a marriage.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Angela Bassett.
Thank you.
Congratulations
Thank you,
on
Jess
everything.
Cagle.